Alright, here's our next video. It's chapter 38, adding and subtracting decimal numbers. And we're also going to throw in squares and square roots. The main thing, one of the new concepts that they want me to emphasize, sure some of you already understand this, is that if we write a number, let's say $3, the decimal, this is an ending number, and so when we write a whole number, it is assumed that right next to the number that's in the one spot, there's a decimal. Okay, so that's still $3. And then after that decimal, I can add zeros. Still $3. You can actually add as many zeros as you want. Now this doesn't have to be money. It can be anything. You can say 24. 24 pairs of shoes. Sounds like my wife's closet. Okay? So 24, you can add a decimal there, and you can add as many zeros after that. And this still has the same meaning, 24. Okay? In fact, these numbers repeat forever if you need them to, but you don't have to write them out. A lot of times we truncate, we just end it, and go from there. Alright, so let's go ahead and do a couple problems. Alright, I really like this next problem. It's simple, but it's still interesting at the same time. If you have a sheet of paper from your notebook, that sheet of paper is, this is example number 1. So let's say the sheet of paper is 8.5 by 11. and we're talking about inches here, okay? So this is 8.5 inches by 11 inches. If you want to find the perimeter of that sheet of paper, let's draw that out. There's a piece of paper. Okay, this is 8.5 inches. This would also be 8.5 inches. This would be 11 inches. This would also be 11 inches. Perimeter, distance around. Don't mix that up with area. Area, you would multiply 8.5 times 11, but we're doing perimeter, which means we add. Instead of multiply these two, we add everything. Alright? So we're going to take 8.5, and we're going to add that to 11. And you got to line up the decimals. Don't forget to line up your decimal points. So let me go ahead and erase this. Okay, so we are going to add up, and in order to do that, we're going to have to put a decimal, a decimal, a decimal. I would encourage you to start out by putting your decimals. You don't always have to put your decimal points first, but it helps you when you're starting to get used to lining up everything. Alright, so then our answer will go right there. 11 is going to go right there. 1 is going to go directly below the 8 because they're both in the 1 spot. Okay, so you did 8.5 plus 11 plus 8.5. And then our next 11. Remember our new concept? We can add zeros as needed. I can add as many zeros that we need. But in this case, we don't need to add zeros because there aren't any numbers past the 10th spot. Alright, so 5 plus 0 plus 5 plus 0 is 10. Carry your 1. 8 plus 1 is 9, plus 1 is 10, plus 8 plus 1 is 19. Carry your 1. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. So, 39 inches. That is the perimeter of a sheet of paper. Alright, let's do a subtraction problem. Let's just do what they have in the book. 12.75, and they want you to subtract 5 from that. Okay? So rewrite it up and down. This is important. I'm going to take 12.75, and you want to subtract 5. Decimal points are lined up. Remember, 5 is in the 1 spot, and so directly to the right of the 1 spot is a decimal point. And then you can also add zeros, as many as you need. I'm going to add 2 because 12.75 goes to the 100th spot, so it's nice to have something to subtract from. 5 minus 0 is going to be 5. 7 minus 0 is 7. 2 minus 5, you got to borrow. Actually, so you just take 12 minus 5, and that is also going to be 7. Okay, so 7.75 is your answer. Hopefully that makes sense. This is easy stuff. Now let's go ahead and talk about squares and square roots. We've touched on this in the past, but we're going to go ahead and touch on it again. And this is an official moment in your life when you are supposed to learn squares and square roots. So let's go ahead and go jump into it. Alright, let's talk about squares and square roots. Alright, in order to understand a square and a square root, you have to understand what a square is. A square is a rectangle, but it's a specific type of rectangle that has all of its sides equal. Now I didn't draw a perfect square, but imagine if I did, all those sides would be the same. Now if this side was 5 inches, and this side would be 5, and this side would be 5, and this side would be 5. So the perimeter would be 20. 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. But we are talking area. So in order to find area, you take the length times width, which in this case would be the exact same number. Okay? Only in squares. Only in square rectangles will you take the same number. So you got to know your number, your doubles. 5 times 5. Let's go ahead and write them out. 1 times 1 is 1 inch squared. 2 times 2 is going to equal 4. 3 times 3 is equal 9. 4 times 4 is going to equal 16. 5 times 5 is going to equal 25. 6 times 6 is going to equal 36. 7 times 7 is going to equal 49. 8 times 8 is going to equal 64. 9 times 9 is going to equal 81. I'm out of room, so I'm going to move my little magnet. 10 times 10 is going to equal 100. Alright, so these are our squares from 1 to 10. And so the area of this is going to be 5 times 5, 25 inches squared. The little 2 in the air means that we have squared it in that area. Okay, so the way this is written, though, is, here, let me erase this, make some room here. The way this is written is we're going to take 1 squared. Okay? The little 2 in the air means you're taking 1 times 1. This one is going to be 2 squared. That means you're multiplying 2 twice. 2 times. This one is going to be 3 squared. 4 squared. 5 squared. 6 squared. 7 squared. 8 squared. 9 squared. 10 squared. Alright, so these are all perfect squares. So if you have a problem, let's say I think we're on example number 3. If you have a problem and it says 3 squared plus 4 squared. The answer to that is going to be 3 squared, which is 3 times 3, is going to be 9. Bring down to 4. And 4 times 4 is going to be 16. The answer to that is going to be 9 plus 16 is going to be 25. Okay? That is how a problem like that is calculated. Let's do a different one. Let's do example number 4. Let's do 4 squared plus 9 squared. Alright, 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So 16 is going to go directly below 4 squared. 9 times 9 is 81. I'm going to add those two up. And it's going to be 97. So there you go. 16 plus 81 is 97. This is easy stuff. You guys are going to get this and have no problem. So let's move on to square roots. Squares are different than square roots. So let's talk about square roots. So if you take 5 squared, the answer is the same as the answer for 5 times 5. Your answer will be 25. Okay? So we started with our square and we ended up with the answer. Okay? Now let's go backwards. Now if you have 25 and you want to know the square root of that, okay, you're basically asking yourself what number times what number equals 25. And the answer to that clearly is 5. Okay? The only difference is the square root of 25, you're not going to write all this stuff out. You're going to just write the square root of 25 is 5. Alright? So let's go ahead and go over a couple different problems. Now if you want to know the square root of 36, the answer is the same as what two numbers, when you multiply them together, and the two numbers have to be the same, when you multiply these two numbers together, you get 36. And the answer is 6 for that situation. Alright, let's go ahead and write all these down. You guys need to memorize these. You guys should memorize these so that when you see these square roots, right away you know the answer. Alright, so here they are. Square root of 1, what two numbers when multiplied together equal 1, and the answer is 1, because 1 times 1 is 1. For this one is going to be 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Square root of 9 is 3, because 3 times 3 is 9. Square root of 16 is 4, because 4 times 4 is 16. Square root of 25 is 5. Square root of 36 is 6. 49 is 7. 64 is 8. 81 is 9. 100 is 10. Alright, so hopefully this stuff makes sense to you. We'll do more on this later. You guys have a good night. Number 2, it says Roberto began saving $3 each week for a bicycle. The bicycle costs $126. How many weeks? So we know that he's doing $3 for every week, and we don't know how many weeks. So you're going to take 3 times however many weeks there are. So let's write W is going to equal $126. So how many weeks will Roberto have to wait? This is an algebra equation, so you start on the side with a variable, divide both sides by 3, that cancels, so the number of weeks is going to equal 126 divided by 3. If you have to do that on the side, feel free to do that. 12, subtract, bring down your 6, 3 will go to 6 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6, there you go, no remainder. So it's going to take 42 weeks saving up $3 a week. So that is a lot. That's an entire school year. So minus the summer, of course. 42 weeks. I want to do number 4. Number 4 is square root of 9 plus 1.2. Square root of 9 plus 1.2. Alright, we know the square root of 9 is 3, so write that directly below, plus 1.2. And then we're going to add those two. So do that to the side. 3 plus 1.2. Notice the 1 is in the one spot. The 3 is also in the one spot. So those two need to be lined up. So bring your decimal straight up. Decimals should always be lined up. Now you can add them. 0 plus 2 is 2. This is going to be 4.2.